All right, let's work on our Chapter 8 test review. I got a couple questions for you. We're going to run through all the different pieces that are going to be on this test. Write each polynomial in standard form. So standard form tells me that I need to line them up by degree. So I have 5x to the third is the highest degree. My next highest degree is 7x to the second. And I see these two can be combined together to get just x. So they are now combined. Are they in order? 3, 2, 1. Thus they're in standard form. And then I need to name it. I name it based upon the highest index number. So this is a 3. So this is a cubic. And it's got 3 terms into it. So this would be called a cubic trinomial. Let me look at this next one here. I'm going to look. I've got negative 8x. I've got 6x. I have negative 2x left over. And I've got 4 and a negative 6, that's negative 2. And so this is now simplified, combined like terms. I'm going to look at my highest index, which is a 1. And so this tells me that it is a linear. This guy tells me it's linear, and the two terms tell me it is a binomial. So this would be a linear binomial. And that's an 8-1 if you want to go take a look at that. So we write our answer here in simplest form. So it's really combining like terms. I've got some x to the thirds and some x to the thirds. It's going to give me 11x to the thirds because I'm adding them together. I've got 6x here, 4x here, 6. That's another 11x. And then I've got negative 3, negative 2. I'm adding them together, so I end up with a negative 5. And again, I got a cubic trinomial. But it didn't want me to name it. It's not nice to call people names. So number 2, a couple different ways you can look at it. You can just do the sheer subtraction, but how I solve these is I add and I put in the opposite of everything inside there. It helps me keep track of the whole value. Totally up to you. I got a negative 8x to the third, and I've got a negative 3x to the third, which comes together as negative 11x to the third. Let's see, I've got an x here and an x here, so that's 6, and it's 11, positive 11x. And then I have 3 here and a 2 here, and that's 5. And I got myself a cubic trinomial here, and that's combining my like terms. Okay, simplifying this guy, I'm going to do a FOIL. So anytime you can go ahead and just try to beat me to solving it. Press pause, you work it out. In fact, that would be best. So pause, why don't you work out these 3 problems, and let's see what we come up with. I'm going to go ahead and factor out the x, so it's x squared. That's not what I'm doing. There we go. Negative 6x plus 5x minus, what is that? 30 minus 38, yeah. And then I bring these together. I can combine my like terms, and I end up with negative x minus 30, a quadratic trinomial. This guy right here, if I can recognize here that we've got all the same terms. That's nice. An announcement from the teachers. This guy I can recognize here. I have 8, so it's going to be 64x squared minus 16. And I can jump right to that. But if you don't see that, you can FOIL that out, and you're going to get the 64x squared. You're going to get a 32 minus 32x, and I'm going to get a plus 32x, and I'm going to end up with a negative 16, and we can see that my middle terms cancel out. So that's why I'm left with 64x squared minus 16, and why did I put parentheses? I don't know why. I did that in class 2. I do not need those. This guy, last guy here, I'm just going to do some straight FOILing, so 3x squared outside. Outside 21x plus 2x. My last term is minus 14. Combine those together and I end up with 3x squared minus 19x minus 14. Hope that matches what you have. All right, this one I'm going to do a couple different ways. I'm going to FOIL this term to all the pieces, and then I'm going to FOIL this guy to all the pieces, and then I'm going to combine my like terms. I'll do the same for number 5. I will do my FOILing, and I'm going to keep track of my negatives. That's where I can get tricky. And then number 6, I'm going to do the same thing as well. So why don't we both press pause, and let's both work it out. right, number 4 was like a super foil. I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms, and I had to do some combining of some different ones that had common exponents, common degrees, and this is what I end up with. For number 5, something I had to pay attention to was the negatives as I was distributing out, and also there's a middle term playing out here. Like something's going on here, so I ended up with an xy and an xy. Had to combine those as well to get my answer. For number 6, the unique thing on this one is just trying to remember that x squared times x to the third is x to the fifth. So just using some of my power rules and keeping track of my negatives. And this guy right here, number 6, we would say this is a 5th degree trinomial. That's the name of that one. Okay, let's simplify this guy. This is saying 3y minus 7 times 3y minus 7. And I could just FOIL this guy out too. I can FOIL this piece out both ways, so I get my different pieces here. I'm going to press pause and work that. All right. That's what I got. 9y squared minus 42y plus 49. This is a quadratic trinomial playing here. So some people have the strange understanding that this is 9y squared plus 49, and that would not be true. Or some might think it's a 9y squared minus 49. That's also not true. This guy right here is going to have a middle term, and that's what it is. And so if you can't see it right away, if you don't recognize that it is, our little rule here that's been played out is it's doubling the product of the middle term. See it right there? Doubling of the product of the middle term, 2 times 3y times negative 7. It's a doubling the product of the middle term. If you can't see it, that's okay. Just write it twice, FOIL it out, and you'll be magical. Factoring completely, write prime if it cannot be factored. These first couple, I'm going to just do some guess and check. Why don't you go ahead and press pause? I will do that too, and let's work these out. So 9, 10, and 11, look for the GCF. Make sure you look for the greatest common factor right away. First thing, press pause and try it out. Okay, I didn't want to venture too far in case some of you wanted to see kind of what I'm doing here. So I know my first term has to be x times x because I'm x squared. And I'm asking myself what times what gets me 24? Well, I'm trying 6 times 4. And I see that 6 and 4 can get me to the 2 if I make the 4 negative. And I can do that this way. And when I check that, that is true. That is my answer. For number 10, I did, just for this guy right here, I did x times x to get x squared. And I asked myself what times what gets me 36? Well, 6 does, so I'm trying that one. And I can see that my 6 and my 6 together can get me to 12, but they would both have to be negative. So I do that, and it is true, because negative 6 times negative 6 gets me to 36. So that does work. For number 11, I'm checking a GCF, which I need to do for all of these, and I see that 5x is in both of them. And I'm left with 3x minus 4. And that's actually done. That's all I can do on number 11. That is completely factored. Okay, so more factoring completely. I'm going to notice on number 12 that it's perfect square, perfect square, perfect square, and difference. So I can go right to this. Getting my 5x's from the 25x squared. I'm getting my 10s from the 100. And because there's no middle term, I need to do a plus and a minus. For number 13, I'm going to take a look, looking for GCF. I don't see one. I'm going to do some guess and check. Why don't you press pause and you try it? Try a 5 and a 1. See if I can do that. So 3 times 1 is 3, 5 times 1 is 5. Can I get to 2 through these numbers? And I can if 5 is negative. So let's look at that. If 5 is negative and my 3 is positive, I can get to negative 5. I can get to my negative 2. Yep, and there's my answer. So more factoring completely. It's very nice. Why don't you press pause? You try these out. right, let's take a look at some of these. So for number 15, I factored out a 4 from everything. I'm working on the inside here. It has to be x times x to get x squared. And then the only way to get 2 is by 2 times 1. And so I have a 2 and a 1. And the only way I'm going to get to negative 3 is if I make them both negative. So I'm going to make them both negative. And can this work? Negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. Yep. So my final answer for this one is 4 times x minus 2, x minus 1. And that is completely factored. Number 16, perfect square. So x with subtraction. So that is mine. You want to start seeing those kind of quickly. Again, I'm really looking for perfect square, difference, and perfect square. Number 17, I kind of fumbled around with this a little bit, trying some different numbers. Like for 100, I tried 10 and 10 because I thought maybe that's what it was, but I'm going to end up with 40 and 40, which does not get me to 60. So I had to throw the 10 and the 10 out. Then I tried, 101 can't work. 50 and 2, so 50 and 2, that gets me, I'm getting into the 200, so 50 and 2 doesn't work. Then I tried like a 20 and a 5, and that gets me 80 and 20. Ooh, and I can get to 60 with my 80 and my 20. So I see that 80 has to be positive, 20 has to be negative, because that gets me to positive 60. So my 80 needs to be positive, and my 20 needs to be negative. So 20 times negative 5 gets me to negative 100. There it is. That is my factored form. Again, it just takes a little bit of guess and check, or a lot of guess and check. So factor these completely. Now when I look at these guys here, I'm immediately going to look for GCF right away. Why don't you press pause and give it a try? Again, look for GCF. You're doing some grouping here and factoring. All right. So I found when I grouped them, I factored out 2x squared from the first one, factored out a 7 from the second one, ended up with 3x minus 8 in both. So I know I can combine these two to make my first term, and because those are doubled, that makes up my second one, my second binomial. All right, if you didn't get a chance to do number 23, press pause and give it a try. GCF. Okay, I'm going to play this through just so if you're not sure where this is all coming from, I want you to see it. So I factored out a 4x from everything, and the green represents what I'm grouping. So I'm going to look at my first binomial here, and I can factor out an x squared, it looks like. And I'm going to be left with 4x plus 5. Yep. And then I'm going to look at my second one here, and I have a negative 4x. So I can factor out a negative 1. And I want to do that. I'm going to be left with 4x plus 5. So I can combine these now. So these together make my first binomial. This indicates my second binomial. And I have to bring my original 4x down. And this is my final answer. Got some nice perfect squares. Oh, got to be careful. Ooh, factor. Greatest common factor. Hey, try these out. Press pause. Try all 3 of these. And then let's come back and let's meet up and share notes. Compare a little bit. Play with our puppy. Have a snack. All right, number 24. I factored out an x squared, which showed me perfect square minus perfect square. So this is like a perfect storm. Yeah. So I ended up with 3 plus 6x. Times 3 minus 6x, all leading off with an x squared. That's exactly what you want to be doing. Number 25, I didn't finish this because I just want to take a look at it. So I have x to the 4th, so I knew it had to be x squared times x squared. That's the only way to get to x to the 4th. And I'm looking at my last term as 1, and the only way is 1 times 1 gets me to 1. And if I look at what's going on in the middle here, x squared times 1 is x squared. 1 times x squared is another x squared, and if I combine those together, I end up with 2x squared, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So that's true. Number 26, I did group them. I factored a couple things out, and I should end up with an answer of 8x squared plus 1 and x minus 8. Compare our notes. See how we're doing. Ooh, there's more. Yay. Yeah, why don't you try these two? See how you do. Okay, 27, I factor out a 5x squared. Now I'm guessing and checking. So the only way to get x squared is x times x. I'm trying for a 15, so maybe like a 3 times 5. And I end up with a 3 and a 5. But I need to end up with a negative 2, so if I make that negative and that positive, that should do it. Negative 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. That's good. All right, that's all done. So my answer is 5x squared, x plus 3, x minus 5. Interesting, we're not bumping anything prime yet. How weird. All right, if you didn't get to do 28, press pause and give it a try. All right, I factored out a 2, and now I'm guessing and checking, so I need to get to 6. So I tried like a 6 and a 1, and I can see that's going to get me to 6 and 3, 6 right now, which is 9. That's not going to get me to 11. Maybe I'll try, oh, maybe the other way, 6 and 1. That's getting me up to 18, so that will not help. So I'm going to trying a 6 and 1. So let me try a 3 and a 2. So this gets me to 6. This gets me to 3, which is 9, which is not helping. Okay, so let me try a 2 and a 3. That's 9, and that's 2, 9, 10, 11. Here's my 11. It needs to be negative 11, and the only way that can happen is by a negative and a negative. So that tells me that has to be negative 2, and that has to be negative 3. And there is my answer. All right, that's it. Study up. Keep practicing. So the way we get really good at this, practice, practice, practice. Speaking of practice, I'm going to go eat a rice cake. Put some Nutella on top and chase the neighbor's cat.